FSR wins here.
Other than Rd.9.
Oh, he's done it!
Look at these two go!
Ewan's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Formula SimRacing World Championship here from Indianapolis. We have come stateside for the only time this season to a track that is famed for its racing over on the famous Four Corners of Banking. However, only one of those will be in use tonight. It's a very vital race in the fight for the title that continues tonight into its penultimate chapter. My name is Ewan. I'm alongside Cam Rodger for the broadcast here tonight, and Cam, it's a strange circuit, some would say, and a strange championship situation we have, but a very entertaining one after what was an entertaining Azure Grand Prix.
Yeah, some chaos ensued a few weeks ago, and that leaves us with a very close championship battle. And today's track, as you say, is going to be very interesting. Of course, you've got the very tight and twisty Sector 1 and 2, but then you have pretty much 2 kilometers of flat-out section through the banking where low downforce is going to be a priority as well. So do you go high downforce for the corners or low downforce for the straights? We'll have to see how that balances out as well. So yeah, it's going to be a really exciting race today.
It is. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more about the circuit as we go on, but this is the championship situation we are talking about. It's a 2-horse race at this stage, mathematically and realistically. Colin Sport versus Alex Siebel will continue on into its 9th round. 4 points separate the two of them as things stand right now. But how many points will be separating them heading into the final race of the season? And are we going to see our first championship finale with the title still up for grabs in 8 long years? We very much could do at the end of tonight, of course. Further behind that, the positions really are academic from that position onwards. So we'll jump straight into qualifying as the guys are just on their outlaps right now. Not a very long outlap. We're pretty much underway with qualifying immediately here, Cam. I'd imagine it quite difficult track to really hook things up around, I would say personally, because you've got that really long run all the way from turn 12 right the way round to turn 1. That's a lot of time for you to just be sat there with not much to do.
Absolutely, got to choose the shift points correctly, and there is a specific line that you need to take through the 2 corners as well. It's not straight, of course. There are 2 corners through, one sort of on the inside of the banking, and then this one as well, as Alex Siebel is coming towards the line. You do have to get the line correct, because every thousandth of a second is going to count in today's qualifying session. Is going to be very, very close indeed. And the rough times we're looking at is somewhere in the mid 1 minute 3s. If anyone's going faster than that, then they're probably looking at a nice pole position today. But let's see how this one continues as we get onto the first laps.
Yeah, in the short practice session before we loaded in here, it was Jan Grankvist who actually set the best time through practice, but hard to know how much we can really read into those times at the moment. We'll be able to tell a lot more when the drivers all get to the end of their first laps here, when they've completed in a few moments' time, and Brackstock is going to be the first of them to go over the line. It's a 1 minute 3.6, just laying down the benchmark for everybody else to get in behind or try and overtake. Indeed, Matt Williams has done a good job there to get into second, just ahead of Dennis Jordan, who slots into third, but we're on board with his teammate. Alex Siebel making his way around the banking now and trying to pick that correct line towards the line now. Spork has not set a lap time, just has done. 5th place for him at the moment. Where does his rival Siebel go? Over the line, and it's 3rd at the moment, so first blood to Alex Siebel.
Certainly is, and that's going to be very crucial indeed. Of course, you can overtake around here, but you always want to start as far towards the front as you can, as we're seeing. Robin Panzar there, that's a bit better than he's been doing so far this season. 7th place for him before we come back to his sister teammate, Michi Hoyer, who was, I believe, 2nd in the practice session. Let's see what he can do on this lap, although this is actually his out lap, so he's not quite done there yet. Of course, it is the shorter lap around here, just over a minute, so you can leave it a little bit longer in this 10-minute session to set your laps.
Yes, you do have plenty of time on your side on this occasion. Couple of new drivers as well standing in here today as well, including a whole new team here, Cam. Royal Blue making their first appearance in the World Championship for 2022. Matt Williams already putting on a good showing for them.
Yeah, he's got 4 race wins so far this season in the Pro Championship, and it was decided between the organisation and the administration to move themselves up to the World Championship for the final 2 races. And of course, Matt Williams, being the fast guy that he is, already putting it on the front row as it stands. But let's see how Grankvist does. Purple in that middle sector. We saw his teammates have very high wings, which could work out well for that middle sector during the course of the race. And coming to the line, easy go to the top. No, second place, actually 27 thousandths of a second back to Brackshock. But what can Michi Hoyer do?
Yeah, let's see. Hoyer's left it very late, as we are not too surprised by, because you can do that around here, as we've already spoken about. He makes his way around the banking now and towards the line, hoping for a mid 1 minute 3. Is it going to be good? It is indeed a 1 minute 3.6. A nice lap from Michi Hoyer, starting to really find his feet now in this circuit with this setup, and in qualifying right now, Sander Kallas makes his way out of turn 12 and towards the banking himself, who'll be the final driver to set a lap time here in this qualifying session. And we'll see where this gets his ground effect car over towards the line for him now. It should be up towards the front of the field. It very much is a 1 minute 3.4. So a couple of surprises here. Most certainly, Colin Spork in 12th place in this qualifying session is certainly one of them.
Yeah, this is definitely a track where you have to hook it up. Some of the apexes, well, in fact, all of the apexes, they're not regular shapes at all. They change throughout the corner. So you have to get the racing line just absolutely perfect. And if you nail it, you can easily gain a couple of tenths here and there. And let's see what Brackshock is going to do on this second lap. Doesn't improve in the second and third sectors, but it does improve overall with his time, just showing how close it is. And also for Michi Hoyer there, when he went to the top, he didn't set a single purple sector, but at the time still managed to get that first place because these times are so close, just a few thousandths of a second each way.
Yeah, it really is not a very long circuit indeed, and of course we'll talk a bit more about the layout during the race, however, and how it affects the racing and so on, and why it was chosen, all of that business. However, it is a short circuit, as it always has been, and this layout does mean that the lap times are exceptionally quick around here, and the margins exceptionally fine, as Colin Spork has slightly improved on that most recent lap time, but he's still down in 14th. Alex Siebel over the line at the moment. He should improve by a few positions here. This is a nice lap from the German over the line, and he's on to the front 2 rows. He's really putting big distance between himself and his rival.
He certainly is, and that is a huge gap. Spork down in 15th place now, in fact, as we're getting some improvements come up. Jake Dennehan there, I believe that was, just go up into that 3rd place. Now, Panzar coming around the final couple of corners, improving in that middle sector. He is a couple of tenths off, though, the best middle sector that we have seen, but what can he do in this final sector? Kicking up some dust through the final kink. Is he going to improve overall? Yes, he actually does, but stays in the same position.
He stays in that 12th place for the moment as we go on board with the man on provisional pole. This will be a bit of a turn up for the books here, Cam, if Sander Kallas can pull this one off. However, he does have the best time at the moment by 1/10.5, which is a fairly large margin around a circuit like this. So you never know, he might be able to just carry this one at home for the moment, but you would expect he's not going to improve with this lap time. He goes indeed all the way around. He's got to be looking over his shoulder, though, at guys like Michi Hoyer, who we know is a good driver, not only qualifying but the race as well, and Jens Brackshock, who's proven himself time and again to be able to grab these pole positions in the World Championship.
Yeah, and Hoyer getting a bit of a good run through the first sector, but slightly down on his personal best in the middle sector, but that's still a fairly decent time if he can keep that speed going through this final sector. However, the final sector is literally just that final corner and then the 2 kinks coming to the line. Can Michi Hoyer improve? He's going to go up into 2nd place, just a 10th shy of Kallas, and he's got a good gap to the guys behind, so that could be a very important time because, of course, look how close the gaps are behind. A few thousandths is going to change a position, but with Michi Hoyer, he's now got over half a tenth behind him.
Yeah, that is a nice little bit of daylight, if you can call that kind of a margin daylight here. But at a circuit like this, you might well do. As we look at Zoltz now in the top 10 here for ground effect, double top 10 at the moment for this team. He'll be looking to maybe get a little bit further towards his teammate here with this lap time. Let's see if he can manage it as we make our way towards the final sector now, or the final few significant corners anyway. The chicanes at the end of the lap, switching one way and then the other. One corner leading into the next. Not an improvement through that middle sector, and there's not a lot you can do about it through that final one, because as you say, it's not really a sector, if you like. There's not much. There's not many corners, so he can't really do that much. And Zoltz is going to do well to improve his grid position too much here over the line. He actually does improve quite a lot 4th place for Zoltsuks, getting towards his teammate there as Jonas Braxop ends his qualifying only 4 thousandths from the top.
Oh, amazing lap there by the Arnage competition driver. Brackshot, he's really been on it in some qualifying sessions this season, but he hasn't quite got the race results. He has had a couple of podiums here and there, but hasn't had that consistently high performance I'm sure he would have wanted. So this is a good opportunity for him as we come on board with Callas. Messed up that middle lap, and still a fairly decent first sector there. Literally just a few thousandths off, so don't worry about it being white, because when we come through this second sector, after this S's sequence, we will then see what he is doing. But because of the final sector is literally just this final corner, you have to nail it, because any thousandth you're going to lose all the way down the straight, and that is a big slide there. He's just going to be losing time as we come through the final couple of corners.
He is indeed. Siebel wasn't able to improve on that final lap time, by the way, and neither is Callas. He comes into the pit lane now. What about Colin Spork, who's really wayward through 3 and 4 there, sliding the rear all the way through. He's down in 15th as the championship leader at the moment, and he is not on form by the looks of things here. We've seen some outrageous qualifying performances from him so far, and some really good race pace from him as well. However, at the moment, it's not falling into place for the championship leader. He bounces across the curb very heavily there at the left-hander, and he is fighting this car way more than he should be.
He's definitely not comfortable, but he does do a personal best in that middle sector. However, that is over 3/10 off the pole position, and his first sector was 2/10 off pole position. So I wonder if he's actually going to get a little bit of an improvement, might get himself up a couple of positions, and every position will count. The tightest run to the line for Colin Spork. Where is he going to put himself at the end of the session? Improves to 13th place, but that is still not enough when his championship rival is up in 5th.
It's only 13th. He's only half a second away, but he's down on the 12th row of the grid the 7th row of the grid, I should say, for the championship leader. Jake Denahan is just behind him and might well even push him down further here towards the line now for the Edge eSports driver, staying as close to the wall as possible. And he may well improve quite heavily here. Not really, I'm afraid. It's still 14th for him, so that's going to do it for qualifying. The championship leader down in 13th place with Alex Siebel. Not a vintage performance from him, you would say, but still 5th and still very solid indeed. We have got a race on our hands. We have got a championship on our hands. There's no question about that. It's going to be Sandor Callas who's going to start this race from pole, ahead of Jonas Braxop, only 4 thousandths in one of the closest qualifyings we've seen all year. Mitzi Hoyer's less than a tenth away. Then it's Zux Siebel rounding out the top 5. Jan Grankvist and Matthew Williams will be next, ahead of Jordan Vosnitzer and Skrovron to round out the top 10. We'll go through the grid in its entirety in a few moments' time, but of course, first things first, we've got to go on board with Mitzi Hoyer for a lap around the Indianapolis circuit.
Hello guys, and welcome everyone to the Formula SimRacing 2022 season round 9 Indianapolis Grand Prix. We are on the old iconic Indianapolis Grand Prix circuit, going across the line for the presentation lap. DRS wide open, going down the main straight to the best overtaking spot as we have a heavy braking zone into a second gear chicane, to the right, to the left. Want to have good traction on the exit and good acceleration up to turn 4. That is a tight right-hander that opens up again for acceleration through a flat out turn 5 kink into turn 6. 180 degree left-hander. Want to stay tight on the exit here as you want to open up your way into turn 7. Early on the throttle, maximum acceleration, DRS wide open on the back straight down towards turn 8. A 90 degree left-hander that leads into another tricky tight chicane. Want to be tight on the apexes. Set yourself up for turn 11. Kiss the apex curb and maximum acceleration through turn 12, back onto the Indianapolis Oval into a banked final turn 13 with maximum speed going down the main straight. We can't wait how the driver battle it out as we're going across the line one lap here around the Indianapolis circuit.
Welcome back to Indianapolis, where Sandor Callas has taken his second ever World Championship pole position in the Formula SimRacing World Championship, and it was a great lap from him indeed. He'll be alongside Jonas Braxok, as we're about to see, for the start of this 75-lap race around Indianapolis. And Cam, 75 are the most important laps we're going to see all season. Thinking especially about Championship leader Colin Spork. He qualified down in 13th there. I mean, what can you say to someone like that who's got the championship lead but is starting all the way down in the mid-pack, in the danger zone off of this start?
Well, if you saw what Verstappen did back at Hungary last week in real life, that's probably similar to what he needs to do. He needs to stay out of trouble really on that first lap and just work his way through. 75 laps, that's a lot. And we're expecting potentially a 3-stop roughly for a lot of the drivers today. So there's a lot of strategic options at the pit stops that he can do. So he doesn't need to make all of the positions on that first lap. So he just needs to do a nice smart drive, a champion's drive some would say, and try and get himself back up somewhere close to Siebel. Because remember, he's still leading the championship. So if it goes his way, he might not be losing too many points in that regard.
And if you're Alex Siebel, then things are going absolutely brilliantly for him at the moment. He's certainly the man in form here, Cam. He's not finished outside the top 5 so far this season. That's the best record of anyone in this World Championship. We've not seen him finish outside the top 2 during the last 4 races either. It's been a really good run of form for him. I mean, it's difficult to know what to say to him either at this stage. We did hear earlier from Siebel that he actually is a little bit ill at the moment, and from what he was saying, or I read into it, Cam, is that he's actually not expecting to be on the podium today.
Yeah, it might not be, but he still needs to get a decent result when we get to the race, and let's see how they're going to line up.
Indeed, let's see as we get towards the grid for 75 laps around here at Indianapolis. It's going to be Sandor Callas with his second World Championship pole on that first position. Ahead of Jonas Braxok, then Mitty Hoyer and Zolk Souks will be on the second row together. There they are for Burst and Ground Effect SimRacing. Then it's going to be Alex Siebel in that 5th place ahead of Jan Grankvist, who will be on the 3rd row with him. Matthew Williams in his first World Championship appearance this season will be in 7th, just ahead of the very experienced now Dennis Jordan. Jan Vosnitzer and Demian Skrovron will round out the top 10. Jukka-Pekka Laulu just missed out there. He's alongside Robin Panzar in this one. Then it will be Championship leader Colin Spork. He'll be on the inside with Jake Dennehan on his outside. Adam Pinchas will be rounding out the top 15. Adam Rainey just behind him. George Chatsipantelis will be in 17th ahead of Ivan Leonov. Tom Oldermenger, Cas Rietveld and Harry Smith round out the 21-car grid here for today's race. It is a slightly bigger grid than we've had in 1 or 2 of the races earlier on this season. A very, very strong grid, you would have to say as well, because the top 12, 13 positions were separated by only half a second here in that qualifying session we saw a few moments ago. Turn 1 and 2 here, Cam, is slightly faster version than what we see, particularly thinking about NASCAR events that have been here in recent weeks. However, it's still a bit of a pinch point going down into that first chicane.
Yeah, now obviously that turn 1 being slightly more open, it's really the second corner that's going to be that pinch point. So do look for someone going around the outside of turn 1, then getting pinched on the inside of turn 2. And we did see in that qualifying session there's potentially a disparity in the wing levels of a lot of these drivers. So when we get back around onto the banking to finish that first lap, definitely expect some overtaking and some guys behind trying to make it 2 or 3 wide. You don't even need the push to pass to keep up with drivers sometimes when there's a bit of a wing difference. But here they are on the grid for the penultimate race of the season.
Well, here it is, round 9 of the 2022 Formula SimRacing World Championship set to get underway in the United States. A great race set up for us here today at this oval and road mix. The red lights come on for the USA Grand Prix. Sandor Callas is going to try and hold on to this lead as the lights go out now. It's a decent start from him. It's a better start from his teammate Zooks in the background. But Jonas Braxok has done enough to get alongside Sandor Callas. Going down towards turn 1. The Arnold's competition got on the inside, but he gets pinched. And he won't be able to take the lead away from Callas. Hoyer will instead take second from him. And he gets through for Burst Esport. Zooks just tucking in behind in 4th. Then it's Siebel, Grankvist, Vosnitzer, Jordan, Spork, Skrovron. Oh, Colin Spork is into 9th place already, and he's alongside Siebel's teammate Dennis Jordan. Side by side they go through the infield section at turn 6 and into the right-hander at 7. It's a dream start for the Unicorns of Love driver.
And there's me saying he should have a calm start. He's just made up, what's that, 5 positions already in Sector 1. As you come through Sector 2, that is giving him a great opportunity. He's just 3 places behind his championship rival. I think Dennis Jordan will be a little bit disappointed to drop behind the Unicorns of Love driver, but that is just how it goes. And then now they're going to need to try something with strategy, because let's have a look at this train. As we come towards turn 1 once again, let's see how this slipstream goes, because the drivers with lower wings are going to absolutely sail past the guys with high wings.
You can see already that Sander Kars was worried about it because he was using the push to pass already. Richie Hoyer hasn't used any, and he's still been able to go alongside him into turn 1. He won't be able to do it through here, although he's going to go for the nicer line into 2. He might turn that to the inside for 3 and 4, but it won't work out. Meanwhile, behind, it's going to be side by side with Woznitzer and Brackfist, who goes way too deep into turn 4, and Woznitzer takes that position back immediately.
He certainly does. Is that Spork behind now, trying to get up into top 7. Maybe a bit of contact between the two. He's actually on the medium tyres and still managed to have a great start. So that is a good strategic call from the Unicorns of Love, because they are the lead driver on the mediums. And if he can use the slipstream to stay up with the softs, that's going to obviously reduce the time loss from being on the slower tyre. And of course, we don't really expect the hards to be used today. So the mediums are really the slower option between the two. And once again, we're coming back out onto straight once again. And this is just going to continue. And let's see how far he can get up the grid.
It's so close between all of these drivers. There's going to be so much slipstream. There's so many cars looking to try and get through here. Braxock's even trying to get through for second. Hoyer in a little bit of trouble here and using a bit of push to pass to try and negate that just a little bit, and he does so quite well. Meanwhile, behind, Spork is up into 7th place, and he spins in front of him. He just about avoids a spinning Jan Woznitzer. His life put a flash before his eyes there, Colin Spork, but he's made it through, and he's up to 6th place already. 7 places in only 2 laps.
Yeah, what an amazing start from Spork. That is great to see. And we did see that he obviously loves a good overtake throughout this season, and he's done that so well. And that was obviously one gifted, but he did well to spot it and avoid having any sort of further issues from that, because he would not want to, lose positions or potentially a front wing because of that. I think we'll get a replay to see just what happened with Jan Woznitzer here. We're coming towards turn number 1. He's right behind Alex Siebel, coming towards the braking zone, just goes in a little bit too deep, goes down the inside and just spins himself, and somehow didn't collect anyone. That is an amazing sequence of events.
Yeah, he just outbroke himself and surprised himself, almost going down towards turn 1 there, and so went around, and he's all the way back down near his teammate in 15th position. As we look back now from Colin Spork, Jan Grankvist on his outside, and now the DRS is in effect. We're seeing that start to come to fruition for Grankvist, who makes his way down the inside at turn 1, and Colin Spork knows better than to fight him here at this stage. We do know that Grankvist may be running a little bit higher wings than some of the other cars, looking at the way the behaviour of the car at the moment. Spork maybe a little bit lower wings at the moment for that little bit more straight line speed, but now this pace is starting to normalise just a little bit. Spork's medium tyres are starting to shine through here, because he is obviously on a harder compound. Everybody around him pretty much on the softs right now, and that is starting to tell.
Yes, certainly. It's going to be an interesting one to see how these battles swing either way. I think looking at how it was on that first lap, always the Grankvist goes too wide there. It's very easy to do on the exit of turn 8 at the end of that back straight. You can just catch your right-hand wheel because there's no curb. It just goes straight from the tarmac to the grass, and you really push the speed through it, but somehow manages to hold on to that. But let's see actually how Matt Williams here, first race in the World Championship this season, and trying to get a bit of a run on the championship leader, Colin Spork, as we come out to the final corner. DRS is very, very late. It's already at the line, but now to the lead. Mitch Hoy going towards the outside of Sander Callis, and he's easily got that already in the braking zone, car length ahead, and he takes the lead.
He will indeed, as down the inside for Matt Williams on turn 1. He's around the outside through 2. And Spork is going to be pushed to the outside here. He doesn't want to let the Red Bull in. And he makes sure that Dennis Jordan has the door slammed in his face there. That was aggressive driving, but very necessary for the championship leader to keep Dennis Jordan behind. That is the one big advantage that Siebel has in this championship fight, is the fact that he has a very willing ally in Dennis Jordan to try and help him not only secure the team's championship, which they might be able to do today, but also try and take the drivers as well.
Yeah, as the season has progressed, it seems that the obviously the Netrex guys who sort of been assisting with Spork haven't been able to keep up throughout the season. We see Vosenitsa there making that mistake. Noah Roivers isn't here, and he also just was a little bit further down in a couple of the recent races as well. Then, of course, the other unicorns of Love Car with Casrivo, they're down in 15th place as well. So as you say, Spork a little bit on his own towards the front there, and he's going to need to try and work that one out. As we've seen, Brackshock now maybe getting on the back of Callas, but Callas has the DRS as well.
Not able to get through. It's going to be single file, side by side in the background though. Jordan's on the inside of Spork here and he's through. Spork has to let him go there, and now what's going to be the game here from Jordan? Is he going to try and get as far up the road as possible, or is he just going to slow that down just a little bit in front of him at the moment? You'd expect him to just try and drive away at this stage. He is on the soft tyres. Spork struggling on the mediums ever so slightly, but the race will come to him later. Jordan is trying to make some pace while he's got the better tyres on now. And Colin Sport will stop this free fall in a few moments' time, because there's not too many drivers in close attendance anymore who are on soft tyres. So the amount of drivers coming through on him is going to decrease drastically, and that's going to help him just try and run his own race at this stage, which is what he needs to do.
Yes, certainly. This is the point of the race where they now need to work out what they're doing. We're 6 laps into it, and we're looking on the strategy side of things. There's a very wide open door. We could see stints as short as 15 laps. We could see stints as long as maybe 25, 30 laps if you want to try something. So there's a lot of windows, and we're already getting towards potentially that opening. As now Brackshock gets to run once again towards turn number 1. But as long as Callas stays in that DRS of Mitchie, it seems like he's going to be able to hold on. Brackshock doesn't seem to have enough top speed to be able to do anything about the ground effect.
Not for the moment, but I'd also get the feeling that Brackshock might not even want to even try and do anything at the moment. Would rather stay in that train the way it is at the moment and just try and get away from the rest. But it's staying remarkably close. This is all, of course, because of the real long straight, I guess you could call it, around the banking there from turn 12, which is the final meaningful corner around this circuit, and then towards turn 1. Down there in the first braking zone. Cam, these guys, of course, it was a bit of a palaver getting everyone to agree on what circuit and everybody voting on it, but finally this is what we've settled on.
Yeah, so initially we had basically the older layout, if you remember, where we had the fast chicane rather than coming through the extra hairpins in sector 1 on this layout. But of course that meant that it was just chaotic with all the slipstream and everything. Now we ended up doing the vote, but we'll get to that in a minute, because Brackshaw now might finally have a run, because Callas doesn't have the DRS this time. Mitchell is pulled away in this lap, and now Brackshaw to the outside goes to second place, and Callas drops down another position. And we're seeing him just potentially struggling a little bit as being from that pole position, now down in towards third place.
He is just ever so slightly struggling, but I have to say I've been very impressed by Callas. He's been probably the driver I've been most impressed with, other than the obvious ones who obviously we knew were going to impress going through it during this season, the likes of Siebel and Jordan, etc. But Sander Callas has had a great season as well. Some fantastic point-scoring finishes. So far, 5, well, I say point-scoring finishes, that's old school, isn't it? But 5 top 10s at least. I know you score points for the top 20 these days, but 5 top 10s. And another one maybe on the horizon today. And of course, you remember the Japanese Grand Prix. In another world, he very much could have won that race, as could have about another 5 drivers, to be honest. So he's had a great season, and this is a nice start to the race. But judging by that, he does need to stay within the DRS of cars in front if he wants to hold on to places.
Yeah, and he's already dropping off the back of Brackshock. Doesn't have DRS this time around, I don't think, but someone who does is going to be Jan Grankvist here on the back of Zalt Dukes, who also is Callas' teammate, so maybe that's something with the ground effect car. Let's see, Grankvist getting a bit of a run towards turn 1, but not close enough this time around to have a think of a move. But again, it's just that situation. If Zooks, these drivers on the high wings, if they can keep in the DRS with the car ahead, then that gives them obviously that effective extra straight line speed naturally, with still the benefit in the corners. But the second that you lose that, that is going to be very difficult to keep the cars behind.
He is, and he's experiencing that in full view at the moment. I think you're right though. Zooks is suffering with the same illness, if you like, at the same time here, because you would imagine there's a lot of sharing with regards to the teams and how they're sharing information at this stage of the season, or at any stage of the season really. And so Callas and Zooks may well be suffering in a similar way with the exact same setup, or at least with the same aerodynamic setup anyway, with the way these cars are going at the moment. But Brackshock right now is only half a second away from Michi Hoyer. Certainly is getting closer to Hoyer than Callas was earlier on in this race. The Hungarian, of course, is trying to get his maiden World Championship win in Formula Sim Racing. And is today finally going to be the day? I feel like we're asking him every week when he's on the podium here, when is your first race win going to come? Maybe today is the day.
Yeah, the thing with Bradshaw over the years of him being in the World Championship, which I think it was 2019 was his first season, therefore this would be his 4th year in the World Championship. He has never really been, obviously this is all respect to the teams that he's been in, he hasn't really been in a team, I would say, that has been able to push him forward. It's been him pulling the team forward, if you understand what I'm saying. So I think now that he's obviously in a position where he's comfortable with the car this year, he had some good places last season as well, getting a pole position if I'm not mistaken. So he certainly has the speed, but he just needs a team around him to be able to consistently do that. And that is why being part of a team is so important in these bigger competitions.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to mind pulling his own weight and basically pulling a team on his own, but certainly he does end up having to do that. He has won in Formula Sim Racing before, by the way, taking the Winter Series in 2020. But in terms of a World Championship win, he is yet to get one. He's yet to get more than 2 podiums in a season as well. He's already on 2 for 2022, so maybe that record can be broken as well today, if not victory, as here we go with Colin Spork. He's getting overtaken by Demian Skrovron. Yukapeka Lalu just in behind as well, and that's the most worrying one for me so far for Sport, because Skrovron is effectively at this stage anyway, as far as we can see, on the same strategy as Sport, but he's been able to outpace the Unicorns of Love driver in these opening laps.
Yeah, I wonder what the strategy is. We do know that, look at Spork just wiggling around there actually a lot more than the cars around him. So I wonder if that's something to do with it. But the tyre wear is actually quite critical around here because all of the corners are actually quite long. There's a long time that you stay on them, especially like these S's section. You really push on the car for literally 1-2 seconds at a time, and that puts so much heat into the tyres that even if the tyre wear stays quite low, you put a lot of thermal deg into them, and that's really where it starts to bite you over the course of the longer stint. So you have to be quite smooth with your driving to keep these tyres going, otherwise they just start to fall off and you're going sort of 1-2 seconds slower than you were at the beginning of your stint.
Here we go again with Spork really close to the back of Skrovron there, but no intention to go through. Maybe these two will fall into a little bit of an alliance here for the opening few moments of this race, because they are on the same tyres at the moment and may well end up executing the same strategy, although it's difficult to tell given that we're only on lap 12 of this 75 lap race. Still a long way to go, but Mitty Hoyer is leading at the moment. Jonas Braksuk just behind him, Sander Callas third, Siebel, Sooks round out the top 5 right now. 2 main groups really being formed, with the top 8 sort of getting away from the rest at this stage. I do feel like this race just going to calm down for the next few moments though, although I could be proved wrong as we go down towards turn 1 again. We have got 3 cars within a second at the moment. Somebody might well get restless soon.
I think they certainly will. Once we get towards lap 15 or so, I think we might see some drivers start to come in, those who are looking at a 3-stop strategy, because after that there'll be about 60 laps to go. As a little bit further in the background, we're seeing a bit of a side-by-side battle there between Grankvist and Zolt Dukes coming towards turn number 1. Grankvist there round the outside towards 5th place, and Dukes going down a position. So maybe just not the best race strategy so far from Ground Effect, because both of those cars have just been going slightly backwards.
Ever so slightly for the moment, but it could all fall into place a little bit later. I have to say, in terms of Spork at the moment and the way he's driving that car, we've been on board with him in qualifying, we've seen him in the race as well. That car is sliding around quite a lot, and personally I know that Spork is an incredible driver and he's had one of the best debut full seasons that we've seen for a long time. However, I would worry about him actually keeping up a pace and not making any mistakes throughout a whole 75 lap race here, because that car does look on edge every corner.
It certainly does, and that's not what you want, because especially with this car, you need it to be planted to be fast. It is a very twitchy car, but those who can just keep it that little bit more stable are certainly going to be quicker and quicker. Now we're seeing Sport getting the slipstream through the final corner, but not actually gaining as much as you might expect, because behind him he's actually got Lalu, who's coming in as a reserve driver for Royal Blue, but Sport they're not able to do anything on Skrovron that time around, so maybe just a little bit higher wing, and that certainly seems to be not helping him with the overtaking side of things, and also with those tyres. I mean, he was ahead of Dennis Jordan at one point, now he's about 6 seconds behind.
A number of reserve drivers indeed involved today, not just Lalu. George Satsipantis was one of them for Edge, but he's already out of this race, I'm afraid to say. First retirement of potentially many today, but hopefully not as we get on with this race. Hoyer's still leading them around and leading them on a bit of a procession at the moment. Pretty much all of these cars inside the top 8 have DRS of the car in front, but not really very much motivation to get through. You did see Jan Grankvist on the move on the last lap. He got through on Zolt Zooks, and he looks like maybe the most promising driver in terms of maybe making an overtake here in the next few moments, and maybe he's going to do it again. However, Zolt Zooks has got a bit of push to pass of his own, and everybody's just doing enough to stay where they are for the moment rather than actually make any moves. You can see a bit of weaving around, but everybody are opting to maybe stay cautious just for now because they know that pit stops may well be on the horizon.
Yeah, we're really in that window now, lap 15. This is at a nice time where you can still make it to the end rather quickly, even on a three-stop strategy. 60 laps left, so obviously breaking out roughly 3 lap stints, give or take, is certainly possible. I think some teams might be going a little bit longer than that if they are trying their three stops still. But if you want to get a bit of an undercut, try and get a bit of track position, this could work because if you sort of look where the leaders are, there's a bit of a gap forming between Panzer and Pinchers, so maybe if that gap grows a little bit bigger, 20 seconds or so is pit delta, they could get roughly in that gap for about 15th place.
It's very difficult to get out and clean air though in the field that we have at the moment. Is anybody going to stay right there? It looks like everybody's going to continue on. Zook's staying slightly to the right hand side here because he wants to defend from Matthew Williams. Going down the home straight now, the Royal Blue driver is surely going to be able to make his way through, and this is a great 2022 debut for Matt Williams, who makes his way down the inside now, and he is into 6th place. He is by far doing the best of the replacement drivers here today, and it just feel almost bad calling him a replacement driver today because he's fitting right into this World Championship field.
Absolutely, and they'll be there back in Brazil in a couple of weeks' time as well, will Matt Williams. So hopefully he can get some nice results to finish this season, and that was certainly a nice move indeed. And also it's good to see Jan Grankvist up there as well. He's had pace. He started in the Pro Championship this season as well. I believe he won maybe the first 2 races, or won and got another podium in the first 2 races of the season in Pro before moving up himself with his Super Venturi team. But since then, he hasn't had the best results. But here's the live standings in Ewan. Look at that. Wow. We've got a swap at the top. We've got a swap, and we've got a real championship fight on our hands. This is absolutely unbelievable. Only 3 points separate Siebel and Spork. Let's not forget that the gap between first and second is 5 points in terms of this rate, in terms of the point system we have these days. As Callis looks down the inside of Braxock, won't make that move just yet. Jordan looking down the inside of Zooks, won't be able to make that move just yet. But Colin Spork, just away from our cameras over the last few moments, Colin Spork has come into the pit lane. He's now down his 17th. That's an early stop for a driver who started on mediums. Yeah, I think he's probably going to go look towards a 3-stop and just using 3 more sets of the softs from that point. The mediums are not the best tyre around here. You really need that tyre grip. All these corners are dead flat. There's no camber to them. There's nothing to help you in the corners. You've got low downforce. Even these teams that we're saying have higher downforce, it's still, pretty low in the range of the capability of the car, and therefore the only thing holding you to the track really is the tyres. So you need the softer compound and you need the fresher compounds as well. This is why strategy today is going to be so important. None of the leaders though taking a bite at the cherry just yet. Not quite just yet. As we got Matt Williams in though. Matt Williams is in. He's staying to the right hand side. He is indeed in. So Royal Blue, first driver from the top 8 who really broken away from the rest to come into the pit lane here, and this might suggest a free stop for them as well. This is, by the way, Matt Williams' World Championship debut at all. He's not just 2022, but in the history of the World Championship, he has never competed in a race here, despite having 5 race wins in the Pro Championship. He makes his way out now on some medium compound tyres. Pinchas and Smith also come into the pit lane, so it's definitely a matter of time for the rest of them up front. It certainly is, and it looks like maybe Mitch is slowing down a bit because everyone behind him is starting to close up, and this could be a good opportunity for him to come in the pit lane. I think anyone here who's deciding to maybe box this lap could get a bit of an undercut. Yeah, well, how strong is the undercut going to be? We've not really been able to find that out just yet. Let's see though, who's going to stay right? It's going to be Hoyer.
Hoyer's going to come into the pit lane. Who else have we got in? Don't think we've got anybody else actually into the pit lane from the front view there. So Mitchy Hoyer comes in from the lead of this race. He slides his way into his box. It's not exactly straight. You wouldn't like that in a Tesco car park, but that's all right in the box. He'll get serviced and he'll get on his way. It looks like another set of softs for Mitchy Hoyer, who really wants to keep the pace up early on in this race.
And he should be fine to get out in that gap between Panzer and Williams. But let's just see what this undercut like is for Williams, though, because even though he went on the mediums, he was on fresh tyres. And where is Mitchell? I think he's just a little bit further up the road, isn't he? So not quite enough to get the race lead. But Matt Williams here might be looking about second, third place by the time he comes out.
Yeah, what is that? 2 seconds behind Hoyer at the moment. I think that will get him just on the back of Siebel, maybe even in front of Siebel. But it will certainly get him ahead of Grankvist and Jordan, I would say. And that was the couple of drivers he was with before. Just in front of him, by the way, that's Denahan and Panzer just battling away. They're yet to stop yet on the mediums, and they might well go quite a great deal further just in this race at the moment. Damien Skrovron just a little bit further in front of these guys. Now, into the pit lane comes Jan Grankvist. Also, Alex Siebel is into the pit lane as they all try and slow down around a corner. Janus Braksok also comes in. Everybody nailing their markers in terms of the box. They're all in, but the real question really here is how big of a lead is Mitchy Hoyer going to have? Because this undercut is proving to be quite effective.
Yeah, that seemed to be a good lap for Mitchy to pit. It was enough to cover off from Williams, and it should be enough to easily hold on to the race lead as well. His issue is that they're going to be catching Panzer, Denahan, and maybe even Skowron eventually if Skowron stays out for a while. So he needs to be careful to not battle too much. As Bradshaw there on the exit manages to get Matt Williams, but only just side by side coming through turn 2 on the exit of the pit lane. And Matt Williams there is now effectively into third place. So he's still gained some places, which he's going to be very happy with indeed. But Bradshaw will be happy to hold on to that second place.
He will be more than happy, and Mitchy Hoyer obviously knew this was going to happen because he put the softs on again, whereas everybody else around him has gone for the mediums on this occasion. Colin Spork's not too far in the background there. He's gone for an undercut and he's gone for the softs. We could well see our first Siebel versus Spork battle of the day coming up in this next stint of the race, but let's wait and see and hold fire on that one as the front 3 leaders just stay out a bit further. Mitchy Hoyer's going to get some help here from Rowan Panzer because they are teammates after all, sort of. They're at Burst Esport, and Jake Denahan here is going to get overtaken by Hoyer as well. This is the dream scenario for him because he wanted to get through on these guys as quickly as possible, and it looks like he's going to do exactly that.
Oh, and that was a big, important move for Hoyer there to get past. It's Panzer in the background going for a bit of a spin. That is not good for his race because he's going to lose so much time here getting back on. Of course, he still needs to make his pit stop. That is such an unfortunate situation for the Swedish driver, and that is really going to sort of put him out the opportunity to get some good points. There ahead is Hoyer going down the inside of Denahan, getting the move, and it looks like, just on his own. I thought maybe there would have been a bit of contact, but in the end, it was Panzer going for a spin.
Yeah, Felix Van Elf is so rude about these drivers behind the scenes, but I can't say that anyway. Rowan Panzer just lighting up the rears a little bit, maybe thrown off slightly by Denahan's wide line, and unfortunately off into the grass down to 13th place now as Denahan's also got overtaken by Braksuk and Williams now. Siebel's going to be next, you would imagine. Going down towards turn 1 as Sander Callis and Damien Skrovron come into the pit lane as well, just before 1/3 distance. It's going to be an exchange of positions here for Denahan and Siebel, and Williams getting through. That is Denahan getting through on Williams, opposite way round. So despite the fact he's on older tyres, he's still got the pace here, or maybe does it point to Matt Williams' lack of straight line speed on the straights? Not entirely sure, because he certainly seems to be doing all right in the corners and straight up the inside of turn 4, drive straight through.
Yeah, that was quite a good example of just how some fresher tyres can help you as well. Denahan just sliding around so much through turn 2, 3, 4, and Williams just able to get straight back past. This is holding Siebel up a little bit. Denahan doesn't have the exit coming out to turn 7. Siebel trying to get towards the inside with this just a little short to the RS zone and braking rather late on the inside there. He's going to get past, and that's going to be crucial for him to stay up with Matt Williams as well. But how it's worked out, Mitch Hoyer's got almost a 2-second lead on Janos Brakshaw, and the likes of Zuc and Jordan are still out there, potentially going for just a bit of a longer stint now to have fresher tyres towards the end. Absolutely,
or maybe cut out a pit stop in this race. Let's wait and see, because Jordan's gone a long way now, as Callas is on the back of Denahan here. It's proved fairly difficult to overtake so far, but this shouldn't be too difficult for Sandor Callas now, and he makes his way up the inside and into 6th place now in this race. Colin Sport will be next for Denahan if indeed he can get there before the G Sports driver comes into the pit lane. But we're nearly at 1/3 distance here, Cam, and I have to say this race is all over the place. I've no idea where anybody is really, and we don't really know what strategies people are on at this stage. It is a real mess.
It certainly is, and I think this stint is going to be very important for Michi Hoy. He's on those soft tyres, which means he's going to need to use the mediums in the next stint potentially, whereas everyone else is going to jump back onto the soft. So the gap that he gains now is the gap that he's going to have to then defend in the next stint. So this gap to Brakshock is going to be very important. He's now getting out already towards 3 seconds. So yeah, this is the really crucial part of the race for him, as Dennis Jordan is still out there almost 1/3 of the way into the race on the soft. So he must be going for a 2-stop strategy as Juch comes into pit lane, and he comes out in 10th. So he lost a whole load of spaces.
Yeah, and it's all due to this undercut that Spork and Vosnitzer have also benefited from inside the top 10 right now. Only 4 positions currently separating our championship protagonists at the moment. There would be a 5-point swing, and that would be in the favour of Alex Siebel, who would take the championship lead by only 1 point. But it's going to change around about 1,000,000 times before then. So we'll try and keep you updated throughout the day as Zooks moves further into the top 10 now, with that move on Jan Vosnitzer, who is down to 10th. Zooks has got to be very, very quick throughout this stint, because he's been undercut quite heavily in that one, and he's lost the back of a lot of the drivers he was with in that first stint.
Yeah, the undercut seems very powerful here. So the drivers going for this 3-stop compared to the drivers doing a 2-stop look to be obviously gaining a lot of time. It just depends on how the speed is on the drivers staying out on the longer stints. Can they keep those tyres going and trying to keep the lap times in? As we're seeing here, Colin Spork getting behind, is at the edge car of Jake Denahan, I think it is, to the outside of turn number 8. And I'm assuming that's not going to be the biggest battle in the world, with Spork obviously on the much fresher tyres.
He is indeed, and he makes his way through with relative ease. We go back to Matt Williams, who's defending from Siebel, and he's made his way through, I think, there. Siebel may have been demoted from 4th place, with the Royal Blue driver making his way through. Callas on the back of these guys now as well. Siebel just trying to run his race, and I guess we've got to ask questions about his teammate here as well, because we're approaching 1/3 distance. Dennis Jordan's still out there on those soft tyres that he started this race on. How far can he take those, and can he possibly pull off a 1-stop here at this race?
I can say from experience in the pro race earlier, I think I did 27 laps, obviously with slightly less fuel, and the tyres were starting to feel pretty not good, let's say. Dennis Jordan's last lap was a 7.5.
Sorry, Brakshock's off the road, and Brakshock's out of the race straight away on the exit of the final corner. Disconnection, I think, for Jens Brakshock. That's such a disappointment for the Hungarian, who will continue his search for a race win in the World Championship for another week. It's such a shame for him, as Denahan and Jordan have both come in on this lap. Jordan, after 25 laps, got on another set of softs here. He'll be in the background of that shot somewhere, and he'll be right behind Colin Spork, interestingly, in this race. But that is such a shame for Brakshock, who was in a real good position to have a great finish in this race.
Absolutely, and that is not the way that he would have wanted to go out, because, as you say, he's had so many good opportunities, but he just hasn't been able to just do that last final step to get a race win, and today was looking fairly decent to do that. And all that's done actually is just increase the gap that Michi Hoy has at the front. It's now over 6 seconds to Matt Williams, or just fluctuating a little bit as they come through this middle sector. So they certainly have gifted burst another couple of seconds in that second place battle as it stands, and now Siebel obviously up into 3rd place. Might be able to get himself up into 2nd, because we saw before Callas may not be able to hold on with the slightly higher wings that he's got, but will Siebel be able to get a run on the Royal Blue drive?
It's going to be difficult here. The 3 of them in a bit of a train going down towards turn 1. Williams using push to pass to defend. Siebel going to the outside line. He breaks late. He'll have the inside for 2. Will he be able to squeeze his way on in? It's close, but Williams is able to go round the outside and use that little bit of downforce that he seems to have on that car to stay in front of Siebel once again. And now this battle is starting to play into the hands of Michi Hoy. The gap is over 6 seconds, approaching 7 at some points around here and it's this battle is only going to be in his favour more. It's going to be in the favour of everybody behind as well, including the likes of Spork and Jordan.
Yeah, Spork actually, his last lap was actually the same as this group in front on the medium, so he's not absolutely thrashing those soft tyres, but for sure he's going to be just gaining a little bit. And actually Dennis Jordan isn't too far behind him, considering how early Spork pit and then how late Dennis Jordan pit. There's probably about a 10 lap difference between the two, and Jordan is really there and thereabouts. So that looks to be a fairly good strategy from the German as it stands, and Spork maybe already getting to the point where it is sort of his tyres are going off, and as it stands, 1 point between those two drivers. But now Siebel, he might be able to change that towards the outside of turn number 1, the DRS, and easily through into the track position. But look how close Matt Williams can stay through turns 1 and 2.
And Siebel turns his advantage from 1 point to 5 with that move there, as Matt Williams tries to go down the inside there but won't be able to do it just quite. Siebel stays in front, and Spork's going to lose some places very soon as well. He pitted quite early, of course. His tyres are a bit older than everybody else's, and so he'll be falling through the field just that little bit more during this point of the race, although he'll be able to get back up there again, you would imagine, a little bit later on. By the way, it's going from bad to worse for our large competition, I'm afraid, because Adam Pinchas went off the road through sector 1 1 lap ago, and that was 1 or 2 laps after Cass Rietveld also went off in a very similar way for Unicorns of Love there. So a few drivers further down the field maybe having a couple of problems, but we're already back to the banking and the home straight once again. Wait to see whether Siebel can hold on to this newly found second place for him. He's going to sort of defend, sort of weave around a little bit to try and distract and break the slipstream of Matt Williams just in behind. And he is going to hold on to second for the moment. Spork's not going to hold on to fifth though, because his teammate Jordan is going through. And Spork offers up little resistance because he knows that he will be hoping anyway that the race will come to him later.
And you could already see just the graphical nature of his tyres. They're already starting to look a bit worn, and there we're just wiggly on the exit as well. Considering how early he pit, he's already going to be getting towards the end. It's about laps of 15, 16, 17, wasn't it, that he pit? So he's already getting towards double that, and we're not even at halfway in this race as well. He obviously has the soft still to go in this race because he started on that medium compound as well. So I just wonder how this one's going to work out for him. But Dennis Jordan is looking in a very good position, going so long at that in that first stint. Even if he still does a 3-stop now, he's just going to have so much fresher tyres and catch up to everyone, or he might stay out for the 2.
Yeah, as you say though, I think he's going to struggle to stay out and cut out any pit stops from this race. He already is struggling really at the moment. He's going to have to go at about another 5 or 6 laps here in this race, I think, is Spork, and that's not great news for him. These are the live championship standings. With those 2 positional changes, Siebel now has a 6-point lead over Spork if the race were to end right now. And of course, I think we've got to really remember here, Cam, the gap between first and second in terms of points dished out is only 5 points. So this kind of puts the advantage to Siebel in the fact he only needs to finish top 2 in the next race. However, only top 2. It's still very difficult, of course.
Yeah, only top 2. Certainly very difficult to do so indeed. And we're just seeing how close this battle is. 3-way battle for second place is amazing to see just how close these drivers have stayed. And actually, they've done a fairly decent job with their pace. Last lap around was the exact same time as Mitchell Hoyer out the front, whose gap is now 6.5 seconds. And it seems like these soft tyres have started to wear down potentially, because we saw Spork also struggling a little bit. Now we're getting a bit of a run for Matt Williams coming towards the DRS line, which is there at the yard of bricks. Now he's getting a run. Alex, we're not defending interestingly towards turn number 1. Matt Williams going up the inside and taking back that second place.
So these 2 exchange positions again. Williams with great pace here in this race, considering he is standing in on a new team, I suppose, Royal Blue Racing, and they'll be here at the final race of the season as well. But yeah, a fantastic debut performance at the moment from Matthew Williams. Displaces Siebel briefly. Callis just in behind. Then it's Jordan in 5th. Spork trying to hold back Sooks at the moment in that 6th position. You've got to remember where Spork has come from though on this strategy. The undercut allowed him to go from behind Demian Scrovron to where he is right now. So if you think about it, he is actually better off than he was 20 laps ago.
He certainly was, but Skovron is definitely catching up with the way that that Spork is starting to struggle with his tyres. Spork is the slowest guy in the top 10 as it stands on that previous lap. Callas now getting a run on Siebel. Is Siebel starting to struggle just a little bit? Matt Williams trying to defend here, coming towards the line. A bit of push to pass from Williams. DRS for the two behind him. Siebel towards the outside. Massively higher top speed, but Williams holds on towards turn number 1, and Callas just has to sit behind for now and try and wait for an opportunity. It's very interesting to see this as Spork there is battling now with Zoltschuk's here in towards turn number 1 and 2, and the rFactor driver, I think they're getting that position as Skovron now is only just over a second behind as well.
I don't think Siebel had any intention of going through on Williams there into turn 1. He just wanted to defend from Callas, and given the speed that the rFactor car actually had on the front straight that time, the only way to defend really was to weave around to the outside line there. You sure, by the way, he didn't try and go round the outside through the first part to get the inside for the second, as you normally see through there. He just tucked in immediately, and he might well do the same if Callas offers up any sort of threat to him on the front straight here next time around. Of course, he's waiting for his teammate a little bit here as well, with Dennis Jordan approaching on these guys, and it might well be a 4-car train for second place very soon, but that's to wait and see in the future, I think. For the moment, this battle is just staying single file towards turn 1. I don't think Siebel has any intention of overtaking Matt Williams really here in this race. He just wants to stay in front of Callas all at the same time.
Yeah, these strategic battles are certainly quite interesting. You have to really choose your moment. This track is certainly one of two halves, and just the way that it's worked out has been quite interesting. I'll just sort of finish what we were saying earlier. And eventually there was a track vote. When we decided not to do basically the double straight layout, we decided there was a vote between this layout here, that is basically a sort of custom layout. It's not actually in rFactor 2 officially, or the 2014 style layout that we did in the previous years. And this track won with about 2/3 of the vote, with 1/3 going to the other track as well. So it was actually eventually voted in by the drivers, and it seems to be working out for some good races. We had a good race in Academy and Pro a bit earlier, and this World Championship race is turning into a bit of a thriller as well, as now Dennis Jordan is right on the back of this second place battle.
He is absolutely here. Of course, he pitted a lot later than those around him at the moment. He's on softer tyres as well, so he really is loving this at the moment. And here we go with both the Red Bulls maybe trying to get through. Siebel goes to the outside line, Dennis Jordan to the inside maybe. Siebel makes his pass, Jordan does not. Down towards turn number 1 as Spork once again overtaken, this time by Demian Skovron. He'll be very glad to hear the fact that his pit stop is not far away.
Wow, Skovron was so far behind Spork when he made his pit stop. I really thought that was a bad decision for the Polishman to stay out so long, but it seems to be that just once again, fresher tyres seems to be the way to go around here. Once you get later in your stint, you just start losing time, hand over fist, and Skovron is now well ahead of Spork as well. Spork really starting to struggle in this race, but then once again, Spork's probably going to pit in the next few laps, maybe the next 5 laps or so, and then he'll then gain a lot of time again by doing another undercut. So it just depends how that's going to balance out when we get to the last 5-10 laps.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a real difficult one to work out who's going to come out on top in this race at the moment. We're not even halfway through yet, and we're not even sure who's going to be on strategy or what at the moment. So let's see. Williams is so close behind Siebel again here, but is he going to stay behind? No. He's going to once again try his luck down the inside, and Siebel lets him have that one. So they exchange positions once again, but I don't think Siebel's particularly pleased about this. He'd much rather they sort of ran in single file and tried to keep the pace high in this group at the moment, but that's not really happening. Matt Williams is just focused on getting the best result he can out of this race. He hasn't got a championship to think about.
He certainly doesn't, and all this is doing is helping Jordan get closer to P2 and letting Michi Hoyer get a little bit away, because they're just losing a few tenths here and there by doing this battling, because Siebel had to sort of back out of that one into turn 1. So overall, they just lost a little bit of time with this battling. So it's quite an interesting point of the race. As you say, we're coming back to get out into this middle part of the race.
It is such a fascinating fight, and I'm surprised Jordan hasn't tried to make his mark on this group just a little bit more as well. He's got the tyres in his advantage at the moment and should be trying to take advantage of that, but he really isn't. Just for the moment, they make their way down towards turn 1 again. and Siebel just trying to defend from Callas more than anything, so they'll stay single file. Meanwhile, on lap 34, by the way, Colin Sport came in for more soft tyres. I have to say, he's chewing through his tyres maybe a bit quicker than he would like. However, the fact he's on soft tyres, of course, and the fact he's going for an undercut here is really going to help him out. I don't think he's going to get him within this group, but it certainly will gain him a few places.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out where Spork is really aiming for in this race, and it's probably going to be around that where Skovron is at the moment, 7th place, how it's all going to work out. Skovron went quite long as well, so I wonder if he's trying the two-stop like Dennis Jordan, because he's actually only about 4 seconds behind as well. So let's try and see how that one is going to work out.
Yeah, let's see. It's hard to know as we come towards the end of lap 36 at the moment. Mitchie Hoyer still with nearly a 10-second lead here in this race at the moment. We've got Matthew Williams in the pit lane. The Royal Blue driver comes in, and now the Red Bulls are just squashing Sander Callas into a bit of a sandwich at the moment for that second position. We'll see if Callas tries to make his way through, but the mediums will be swapped out here for Williams. What's it going to be? It's going to be softs, and it was probably going to be a 3-stop for him now with a couple of sets of softs to the end of the race.
Yeah, it seems to be it's going to be 1 set of medium and 3 soft for all of the guys, because the mediums just don't seem to be the tyre today. But of course, then we seem like with Spork, the softs really do start to drop off if you're not careful. But then we also saw Dennis Jordan going 25 laps and still keeping good pace. So it's really an interesting strategy how the different drivers and maybe even the different setup philosophies are working the tyres around this track. And the strategic options have just been blown wide open. So now let's see how Matt Williams affects this battle. Are we going to see Siebel and Callas react to this and try and do something else? Because that could be quite interesting with the undercut now for Williams.
I suppose it depends greatly on the setup and the driver here at this point, really, with regards to how far you can actually go. These guys go past the pit lane one more time and don't look interested in changing tyres for the moment. Siebel is really under pressure now from Callas' inside line for Spork. He knew that he needed to make that move on Jake Dennehan as quickly as possible, and I think that was a bit of a dive from the championship leader, but he's going to have to do it as Callas goes round the outside of Siebel, who drops another place here. So the two Red Bulls in behind Callas now, who makes his way through. Interesting cause. Callas goes a little bit wide. They're still losing time to Mitchie Hoyer, who's keeping a great pace despite being on those soft tyres for a long time now.
Yes, the battling one is interesting, but sometimes it gets to a point where you almost have to overtake, especially here, where we've got best part of a 2 kilometres straight to work out. And I wonder if the Red Bulls are going to do anything, because Dennis is obviously at a faster point in his stint. Then also Alex doesn't want to lose more time losing another position, because Matt Williams is going to be coming up for the undercut as well. And here is a replay of Callas getting the run. Siebel does defend it towards the inside, of course, but Callas is just going to be very strong on the brakes and have enough track position to earn the corner, earn a position, I should say, into the second corner.
Yeah, nice move from Callas, who might well lose it again. We'll find out. Going through here as Mitchie Hoyer comes in. It's going to be an exchange of positions here for the Red Bulls. Just down the inside goes Alex here, who decides not to use DRS despite having the ability to do so. He stays in behind as Mitchie Hoyer makes his way out on another set of softs. He's going to go a long way into this race, having not used the mediums, and then come in very, very late on to put on the medium tyres. I don't know if you remember a F1 race back at the Nürburgring back in the early 2010s, Cam, but there was a battle for the podium between a couple of people, and they came in for finally a new set of compounded tyres with 1 lap to go. I'm just wondering whether Mitchie Hoyer might be thinking the same.
Yeah, I don't know about that one, but for sure he will need to use the mediums, of course. All drivers need to use 2 different compounds of the soft, medium and hard available options. So let's see how this one works out. Obviously the drivers behind him have all used their set of mediums, so this is obviously going to be Mitchie's fast stint. We actually did see this a lot last season with Mitchie at the beginning of the season, when he obviously slightly different rules and everything, how it worked out, but everyone who did soft, hard in that season generally came out on top. But now Dennis Jordan to second place ahead of Callas. He's got him even before the DRS line there across the yard of bricks, and Dennis Jordan now is looking in such a strong position because these guys have all made 1 pit stop and he's ahead of them, and also he's only got 1 stop left in this race from what we can work out.
You can be sure as well that while he was sat behind the likes of Williams, Callas and Siebel there, he wasn't pushing the car as much as he could have done. He was definitely holding something back, and he was definitely saving those tyres quite a lot during that little sequence. So you can be sure he's got great kind of wear on his tyres at the moment, as in not very much wear on those tyres right now. And he'll be able to go deep into this race, put those mediums on, and maybe even surprise the field here. I think the gap he's got to be worried about is the one to Michi Hoyer, and that is only 10 seconds right now.
Yeah, that is certainly the one that you've got to be wary of. But it seems like he's got the speed right now. Of course, Hoyer is going to be on those fresher tyres. He just got past Jan Grankvist there for 5th place. So he's got some clean air ahead of him. And Grankvist, I assume, may be coming to hit him fairly soon as well. So this could be working out okay for the German driver as Siebel comes in for his pit stops. He's obviously stayed up quite a bit longer. So he's going to have a lot more comfortable double stint to the end. But it's softs again, as you would expect. And then it will be... I believe soft after that as well, as Grankvist comes in for his pit stop and also unexpectedly onto the soft as well. So I mean expectedly onto the soft.
He's just going to drop down outside the top 10, quite possibly Grankvist, but Siebel will stay within it and he'll get behind Colin Spork. He will be behind Colin Spork. What a story this is going to be. So the two championship rivals just exchange places and they're going to have to fight this one out on the road. Alex Siebel has lost about 10 seconds in that sequence there. Matt Williams was just in front of him when he came in. Siebel is now 10 seconds behind him. Surely there was an issue there for Siebel or something. His pit stop was longer. I'm not sure, because the undercut can't be worth 10 seconds, but it might be.
I think it is. I think it just is, because it was a huge huge amount of laps undercut, about 6 laps or so for the undercut. So certainly that is, possible just with the tyres. But also we saw the battling that they were doing as well, just losing the extra half a second here and there. But of course, Spork pits so early that he's going to struggle with his tyres, like we saw about 10 laps ago. So it just really depends how this one is going to work out. Now Siebel getting the run. Spork using push to pass, using push to pass to hold on to this.
He's trying everything here to hold on from his rival. The two rivals go side by side. Colin Spork on the inside, Alex Siebel on the outside line. He goes around to get the inside for the second part. The two make slight contact, but Alex Siebel makes his way through. Colin Spork threw everything at that to try and hold back Alex Siebel as much as he possibly could, but there's only so much you can do when you've got older tyres. And so Siebel makes his way through in a very, very important move.
Yeah, that was important. You are right. And Spork, they're just struggling a little bit through 5 and 6 there. And as you say, he had to fight that one. This is a championship they're fighting for, and it's just a couple of points here and there that is going to decide it looks like. So he had to fight it, but he just didn't quite have enough to hold on to that. As we come back to Sander Callas now, who's 2 seconds behind Dennis Jordan. Jordan really at a good point of the race for him.
He's a real threat for race winner here, because, well, I suppose he's got to use mediums later on, hasn't he, I think. I don't think he's used the medium compounded tyre yet. Hoyer will do as well, though, so as long as Hoyer doesn't catch and overtake him and then pull away from him before their final pit stops, then Jordan's got a real chance of winning this race, but there's no question Hoyer's gaining quite a lot of time on him right now.
Yeah, he does. The issue is, of course, Hoyer is catching at the moment. He's already caught about 2-3 seconds already since that stint, although he's now coming up behind the driver ahead of him of Zoltjuk's and getting a bit of a DRS. But of course, this isn't really the place that you want to overtake. This is more of a zone to get closer, and then he can fly past on the main straight should he keep close enough through the S's section. But yeah, really for Dennis Jordan, the issue for him is that he's still going to have a decently long medium stint, whereas Hoyer's is going to be probably less than 20 laps. Jordan's is going to be looking to be around 25 laps, and we've seen how the older tyres really do start to drop off. But now Hoyer getting the run on Zoltjuk's. This could be quite important for his race. Going back up onto the podium, a car going past it. I think that's Cas Rietveld a lap down, letting them through. And Michi Hoyer gets up into 3rd place now, and he's chasing down Callas, and he's only 5 seconds back, having already made his pit stop.
Absolutely. It's been a great drive from Michi Hoyer. Possibly the best of his season so far. He's already had a couple of podiums, of course, where he drove well. You could say he had this kind of form at the Italian Grand Prix as well. However, this is one of his best so far. And maybe just building or setting down the building blocks for a real tilt at the 2023 championship. Maybe is that going to be finally the chance where he gets it all together finally in a season? Because we are yet to see that from him. We see great races individually from the German, but stringing a whole 10-12 race season together, however many it's going to be, is real difficulty. and has been in years past. But Hoyer's got a great chance of winning this race. He's only 7 seconds behind Jordan at the moment. Interested to see what the ground effect guys are going to do here, because they also haven't made their second stop yet. I just wonder whether they're maybe thinking and casting their eye over to the two-stop party and maybe trying to get themselves an invite.
I do wonder that as well, but I guess it depends, as we're going to see now Skovron actually getting a huge run on Colin Spork. Spork does not defend at all. He has obviously realised that this is not his battle, but once again, he pits early, he goes ahead, and now some drivers are starting to come back past. Siebel is already 5 seconds up the road of Colin Spork. So this, the drop-off on these tyres seems to be quite severe for Spork, but it seems that Jordan can hold it out because he's still doing some fairly decent pace out the front on 20-lap-old softs.
I mean, Jordan is just really, really good at saving tyres. Time and again, he showed that he can save tyres like almost no one else in this field, in any field on rFactor 2 at the moment. And that might well just put him in a great place to contend for this race win. 30 laps to go as we cross the line right now. Sounds like a lot, but the lap times are very, very short around here. They're very quick around here, so not too long to go, really, for Jordan, and not too long for Hoyer to try and catch him here at this stage. I really do think it is between those two. Although Sander Callas might have something to say about that as well. He's very much up there with Zolt Zooks as well. As Matthew Williams is certainly closing on Zooks here, with Siebel closing on him as well, having stopped that little bit later. It's slightly difficult to know where everybody's at this stage. However, we are starting to work it out just a little bit. Those ground effect cars along with Jordan may well be on the 2-stop. Everybody else on the 3. Almost everybody will be on the soft tyres at the final stint this race, apart from Hoyer and Jordan. I think the only ones not to use the mediums yet.
Yeah, I really do not know how this one is going to work out. It's very difficult indeed, because Jordan's pace is still just so good. He was only a tenth slower than Hoyer on that last lap, and he was quicker than the likes of Williams. He was quicker than Sander Callas. You know, Jordan's just doing such good pace on these tyres. He's really able to keep them going, and that is going to be a crucial factor for him working out this 2-stop, because as you say, he only has 1 stop left like Hoyer, but Hoyer's 6 seconds behind him. And Jordan will also get an undercut on him by pitting earlier. So this is going to be a little bit tricky for Mitchie, I would say.
Well, we'll see if he can manage it. Bork is just behind Skovron here. He's finally found someone at his pace here who he can kind of run with a little bit here. But able to keep up with Skovron, but remember, he's got to take those laps, those tyres another 9 laps here in this race. So we'll see if he can manage it, but he continues to struggle towards the end of these stints. 20 laps is turning out to be a bit far for Spork, really, with those softs. His tyre wear is certainly not as good as Jordan's. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, certainly. It's going to be difficult one to predict, and maybe in the YouTube, Twitch comment section you can write in who you think is going to be taking the win, because to be honest, any one of those top few drivers could, if they work out their strategy, is so close in terms of seconds as well. And we've seen the likes of Spork, fluctuate by 10 seconds up, 10 seconds down across a stint compared to people around him.
I guess what else we've got to work out before the end of this race is, what's the gap going to be between Siebel and Spork? At the moment, it would only be 2 points in the favour of Colin Spork. But for me, any margin below 5 points, either way, it kind of means the same. Because any race win would win you the title in that final round. And surely that's a very exciting prospect as well. Although, given the way they've ran this race particularly, it is somewhat hard to see either of them winning that race if everybody turns up with the form like they did this week.
Yeah, I guess the only difference is if it came to that situation, you would expect the likes of Dennis Jordan to try and maybe help his teammate. You would expect the likes of maybe the other Unicorns of Love driver to try and help Spork in that way, giving a point here or there. So I think every point is going to count. And talking of points that count, Mitchie Hoyer, this could be crucial as well. Trying to get past Callas without losing any time, and it looks like he's going to be able to do so. Callas not defending at all to the inside. Mitchie Hoyer is going up into second place as he tries to chase down Dennis Jordan with both a stop to go. And they are now just 5 seconds apart. It looks like we're getting towards that lap 50. Dennis Jordan did about 25 laps on his previous stint, so in the next couple of laps, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes in for his final pit stop, and then Mitchie still has 5 seconds to chase down.
Yeah, Hoyer's really getting on with this now, and it is good to see for him. As we go back to Matthew Williams, who's just on the back of Zoltzuks and being caught by Alex Siebel all the same. Certainly getting closer, and the battle's starting to re-emerge once again. But it's a good point you raised there about teammates and possibly gifting points to teammates here at this stage. It's always been done and always will be. What is Jordan going to... If he finds himself, Jordan, in the lead of the race here, is he going to, slow down here to allow Siebel some more points? Or is he going to take the race win for himself? It's a very difficult situation to be in for Red Bull, since they've especially got the teams championship basically sewn up at this point.
And he certainly do, as Williams just pulled out the slipstream there through the final corner because he was too close on Zoltzuks, and now Williams getting the run, going to the left-hand side with the DRS on those softer tyres, getting past the Hungarian driver and up himself into fourth place. Matt Williams could be looking at a podium today if he works this one out. He's just got a few seconds to Sander Kallas, and they both still have a stop left. Kallas is going to be too wide.
Sorry, Zooks, excuse me, was wide there, not Kallas. But very nearly went off at turn 4 as Jan Frankfist makes his way through on Colin Spork, who continues to just flail and flounder a little bit down below the lower reaches of the top 10 right now. For me, this championship is, or the margin is going to be decided by Siebel's performance in the final third of this race, because Spork's going to finish where he's going to finish here because of his tyres, the way he's in at the moment. Just whatever pace he can carry to the end here will carry him to any position, and I don't think there's a lot he can do about it. But Siebel has a lot of opportunity, a lot of optimism, and a lot of chances here to maybe gain a few points. And it's just a case of whether he takes those chances or not. For me, really, I don't think there's a lot more Sport can do.
Yeah, he's just going to struggle. He gained 10 seconds with an undercut, and he's now 10 seconds behind Siebel, which just shows you the fluctuation over the course of a stint. Jukes there is making his pit stop, and that should be the soft compound tyres to the end of the race. 2-stop strategy for ground effect today, and let's see Kallas coming into the pit stop potentially this lap around. And Hoyer, he's now within 3 seconds off Dennis Jordan. He gained 0.6 last lap around. This might just work out for Mitchie. He's going to have a fresher tyres at the end of the race because his stint's going to be about 5 or so laps shorter than Dennis's as well.
He really has gone very quickly in the second half of this stint, but I get the feeling it's also partly down to because Hoyer's pace is around the likes of Williams, Siebel, Scrover and that kind of region, but Jordan's time is just going up slightly. Jordan is losing a bit of time as Sander Kallas also comes into the pit lane here for his final stop of the day, you would imagine. But yeah, I think Jordan is just losing a bit of pace rather than Hoyer really pushing on here, because he can only go as fast really as his tyres will take him at this stage, and so can Jordan. So Hoyer's in a slightly better place. However, he's got to think about those medium tyres. You know, if Jordan's on the softs, Jordan's going to be on the mediums as well, so they're both going to be floundering in the same tyres, I suppose. But even so, it's going to be a struggle for them, and I do think they may even see some challenges from those behind, because everybody else has used the mediums already.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting end to the race. The only good thing for them is that they've obviously got about 8 second or so gap to Matt Williams, who's now in that third place, of course with a stop to go as well. But that gap to those guys behind, Siebel as well involved there, Skovron, they're going to have all softs to the end. It just depends how much quicker they are going to be. And Mitchie Hoyer can now see Dennis Jordan. I wonder how long Dennis is going to stay out. I believe he's stayed out again. He has. So what he's trying to do now is offset the difference. So because he's got a couple of seconds gap to Mitchie, he's going to basically go a couple of laps longer, maybe have a couple of slower laps and offset the difference that's going to be in their tyres to then help him have better speed than Mitchie, or potentially the same speed as Mitchie, rather than being slower at the end of the race.
Yeah, I do get the strategy here, though, but I do worry a little bit about Kallas in the undercut here for him, because Jordan's got to be worried about the ground effect guys. I think they'll be very quick on those soft tyres. They'll be getting an undercut right now, and if he waits too long, then he could find himself behind those guys on medium tyres while they're on the softs and able to defend. So is Kallas maybe playing his way into this race, or maybe that the 25 laps for the ground effect cars is a step too far, because even Jordan, who's famously good at saving tyres, is struggling with that.
Yeah, he certainly is, but he's gone a lot of laps on these soft compound tyres, and it's crazy that he's gone this long where we see some other drivers just dropping like a stone after 15 laps. And I think Jordan is finally coming in for the set of mediums. Now it's just a strategy of when is Hoyer going to come in? Is he going to come in straight away and, just react to that? Or is he going to wait the few laps longer that he can and then try and have fresher tyres at the end?
Let's see, Dennis Jordan though in the pit lane and was quite wayward on the way in. Needed a bit of opposite lock, but he got in all fine. And I think he's going to get out in front of Carlos here, although it won't be too far in front. And he will be on the mediums, of course. He's going to get out just ahead of Colin Spork, who's just got Carlos in behind at the moment. So there's Grunkvist. He gets through. And he's having a good race now as well. After a slow first stop, he's really improving as the day goes on. Spork is just in there behind. You can just see him. And then Carlos. It really depends on the pace of Carlos here and how much quicker he can be. Mitchy Hoyer, though, out there, he does now have the lead, and he's returned a similar lead as to what he had before the previous pit stop cycle. But I think with the medium tyres, he might well come in straight away here to cover off Jordan. It looks like he's going to carry on and try and make the most of these soft tyres while they last.
Yeah, I mean, if he's still got the pace in the tyres, that is certainly a good one to hold on to. Of course, Jordan's probably going to be quicker with brand new mediums and to where Mitchie is in the stint, but he's still doing some half decent lap times compared to the guys around. So let's see how long he's just going to choose to stay out. But either way, he was behind Dennis, so it's not like he's going to be able to overtake. But let's see, Jan Grankvist now towards the inside. Damien Skovron actually trying to have hold on to this position, but Grankvist there on the soft compound tyres trying to come on, and let's see if he can get through.
Well, it's, as I say, a great second half of the race here, certainly for Jan Grankvist, who's been climbing through the order throughout the day, and it doesn't look like it's going to stop right now. Dennis Jordan, though, is going to have to negotiate these two, and we'll wait really for a lap time at the end of this lap here for Dennis Jordan to really see where he is. But Mitchy Hoy did a 1 minute 6.3 on that last lap, which was pretty good compared to the rest of the field here at the moment. That was a big slide of the way in for Skrovron, who's now really under that little bit of pressure. Of course, doesn't have to use the medium tyres, as do most of these at this stage anymore. There's going to be a lot of soft tyre runners for the finale in this race, you would imagine. And Grankvist looks like he's going to be able to get through into 4th place. He's just in behind as they go around the banking now, just trying to get the best run possible. He's a bit more slipstream than that, and will finally use the DRS now to make his way through. He is struggling, really struggling, and won't be able to even get alongside there, although he'll have the outside line for turn 1, inside for 2, but this is becoming painful for Jan Grankvist now. He can't make his way through at all.
Oh, he absolutely can't. And Dennis Jordan now on the back is trying to get through. And he's got the inside already in turn 4. That's side by side. That's so tight in that just a one-line sequence of corners, really, through the apex of that corner. And now Dennis Jordan trying to go round the outside. This will then be the inside towards turn number 7. Still side by side for 3 corners now as we come onto the DRS straight. And of course, we've got a car behind there. I believe that's a lap down with Robin Panzar as well. This is crazy. 4 cars trying to battle as Dennis Jordan there just losing a bit of time getting through this traffic.
He is indeed. It's time that he can't really afford to lose. However, in his last lap, he set his best lap of the race so far. So clearly those mediums are not doing too badly at all. Is he going to another race victory here in the Formula SimRacing World Championship to repeat that Malaysia victory that he had earlier on in this season? As we go now over the start-finish line again, he's into the top 3. He's just running his own race at this point. So is Mitchy Hoyer. And maybe they'll come back together a little bit later on. But let's see as Robin Panzar makes his way down the inside of Grunkvist into turn 1 as a lap car. He is on new tyres, so just trying to get himself out of the way of these guys as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. It's certainly an awkward situation for Panzar to be in, but if he's got the tyres and he's able to do so, then as long as he doesn't hold him up, he's certainly able to do that. But now Jordan is in clean air.
He is indeed. And Matthew Williams has also come into the pit lane, by the way. So has Colin Spork in those final few moments, because we are now less than 20 laps from the flag. Here comes Mitchy Hoyer also into the pit lane. 18 laps to go. It's going to be a very, very quick 18 laps as well on board with Mitchy Hoyer, because he will have those medium tyres on and he will try his very best to catch and pass this man Dennis Jordan, who will surely be out in the lead of this race. Through the banking now and over the line. Siebel also comes in to put those soft tyres on for the final time. What is the gap going to be? Jordan's going to get through very easily here. But where's Hoyer going to be on the exit? There he is. He's going to be behind a lot of cars. That's a lot of traffic to negotiate. Some of it is lap traffic, of course. That's Ivan Leonov making his way down the inside. This is very messy. He's not able to get through on Hoyer, who comes out in third.
And that was a crucial position for Hoyer. He did want to come out, behind Leonov, but also battling with Sander Kallas there. But he does need to get past Jan Grankvist and, of course, Robin Panzer, who's involved in that battle as well. But Grankvist will be coming into the pit lane at some point.
They will have to, you would imagine, unless they really do pull off some sort of miracle. There's lap cars involved here as well, which is not helping some of these drivers, but just look at this, top four separated by less than 5 seconds at the moment in this race. It really is going to be a grandstand finish. Hoyer only a 3-second disadvantage over Jordan, who he needs to catch, of course. Grankvist will come in as well, so he'll get out the way. Panzer will be out the way now as well, because of course he is on those newer soft tyres, so he'll be able to go up the road a little bit compared to these guys. But Jordan, Hoyer and Kallas are separated by less than 5 seconds. They're all vying to win this race possibly, and we've got a championship to think about further down as well. Alex Siebel moves up to 6th. Will Spork be able to move up into 8th place while all of that happens, or will Grankvist stay in front of him? Grankvist stays ahead, so Spork at the moment is in 9th. And I think that might actually be the limit here for Colin Spork in this race. Although he is very close to getting through here. Let's see, on board. He's not going to get this move.
And yeah, that's it's going to be very difficult situation for Spork, really, being those places behind Siebel, but also just with the tyre wear that we saw a little bit earlier. So for sure, it's going to be a hard end to this race. But what he needs to just think about is his gap to Siebel ultimately, not just the position where he is, but the gap to Siebel and making sure the gap isn't going to be too big.
Absolutely. At the moment, they would only be separated by 1 point in the championship hunt if things ended right now, but they won't. Let's see, over the line here, first flying lap here for Mitchy Hoyer as Dennis Jordan does a 1 minute 5.4 on the mediums. It's his fastest lap of the race so far, but it's also Mitchy Hoyer's fastest lap of the race so far. A 1 minute 5.1, 0.3 of a second, taken out by Mitchy Hoyer, who's on a hunt here for the first race win of 2022 for the German, who will obviously believe that this is coming a lot later than it ideally would have done. However, he's better late than never, and he's going to try with all that he can to close in here in the final 15 laps.
Yeah, this is a very close lap. Close gap, I should say. But it's very good that he's got 15 laps to do it. So he doesn't have to gain all of those 2-3 seconds in, 5 laps. He doesn't have to go absolutely crazy. If he feels he's got a few tenths advantage, he can just slowly reel Jordan in and then hopefully have enough laps to try and make an overtake. The issue is Jordan's been so good on his tyres now. I don't know, even with having a longer stint, I wonder if Dennis is actually going to have potentially better tyres at the end of the race. Well, so this is, going to be very interesting.
The thing is about the first 2 stints of the race, though, Cam, is that he wasn't under pressure like this. Hoyer wasn't bearing down on him in a race-winning, potentially, situation. He was able to kind of start the stint at his own pace, save the tyres as he wanted, and then have the pace at the end as Siebel gets through here on Zooks into 5th place and gains another point. But yeah, I mean, Jordan's going to be put under a lot of pressure here. We know, obviously, his tyre-saving credentials are very, very strong. However, he didn't have to do it before under this amount of pressure.
And Siebel last lap around a 4.7, obviously having a load of DRS and everything in that final sector, but he's going to be working his way back towards this podium slowly but surely. He's got Williams 3 seconds up the road as well. And with Spork being in an awkward position that we talked about, every position that Siebel gets now is going to be crucial with the gap in the championship after this race.
As we speak right now, they are level. If the race were to end at the end of lap 61 right now, they would be level heading into the final race. Where have I seen that before? I can't remember. But yeah, Siebel having a good race here, and there's certainly opportunity for him to improve here. Matthew Williams might well get a podium on World Championship debut. I don't know when the last time that happened for any driver. Someone will tell me. But it's 2.5 seconds between him and Kallas. And Kallas is going to be on old tyres. It's going to be a struggle final stint for ground effect.
Yeah, this is going to be difficult for them. But with Kallas, at least they have some seconds to burn to Siebel. So they might still be able to get a top 5. But I don't know if Kallas is going to be able to hold on. He's got good speed for now, but it's just the fact that his stint is going to be so long. I don't know if he's going to have tyres at the end of the race. We will certainly have to see on that one. And with the way that it's worked out, now we're coming up towards 10 laps to go, and with where the two-stop people are in the order, I'm surprised more people didn't go for the two-stop. Admittedly, it is obviously fairly difficult to do that at a good speed, but I'm surprised more people didn't go for it with just how well Jordan has executed this so far.
It is difficult, but there are still 13 laps to go, we can't forget, in this one, and it might well change before then. As we see there, the championship standings dead even at the moment between Siebel and Spork, but I still think Siebel can get a podium here in this race. It's definitely possible for him, although there's a lot of lap traffic involved at the moment. It's a very short lap around here, and so there's a lot of cars getting lapped. There's quite a big battle actually going on for 15th between Harry Smith, Ivan Leonov and Robin Panzar. They're all separated by about 5-10 seconds or so, and that makes things very awkward if you're on the lead lap and up towards the front at the moment. Gap at the very front of the field came down by another 10th during that last lap. It's now about a second and a half, 12 laps to go at the line. Very tense for both Jordan and Hoyer at the moment.
Yeah, you just got to work out though who's going to keep their tyres for those last 5 laps. That is what's going to be crucial. That's really been the story of the whole race, is who's been able to hold on to their tyres for longer. We've seen the likes of Spork really struggling with that, and then we saw Jordan really excelling with that. And Mitchie's only had about 3 or 4 laps on Jordan as well, so it wasn't like this is a massive differential in tyres, but hopefully for the Germans' sake, well, actually they're both German I should say, hopefully for Hoyer's sake, that is going to be in his advantage. Of course, catching and then overtaking and then keeping the lead around here are all completely different things.
Yeah, I do that a lot as well, to be fair. But yeah, they are indeed a couple of Germans at the front of the field at the moment, followed by an Estonian in third place at the moment, Sander Kallas. But are we about to replace that with a Royal Blue car, quite possibly? Well, Jukka-Pekka Lalu is trying to get himself up the order a little bit at the moment as well. That's Jan Voznitzer and Jake Dennehan just in front, and Dennehan's going to give Voznitzer just that little bit of slipstream to hold on here, unless Lalu's going to be late on the brakes, and he will be very late. Try and get up the inside, but he's not got enough of his car alongside, surely. He's got a nice run around the outside of turn 2 though. Oh, and a bit of contact. Wow, they both stay on the road. Normally when you make contact at that particular corner of the racetrack, you are both off, but fortunately they've got away with it there.
They certainly have gotten away with it. I was expecting that to be a crash, but fortunately for them, and also Jan had a massive crash there a couple of years ago in the pro race when we first came back to Indy after a couple of seasons. So I would not want to be repeating that. But ahead of these guys is Jake Dennehan in the top 10. I believe, is that going to be his best race of the season so far? I think it might be if he can finish there. He's had a few rough races. Good to see the Edge eSports driver finally having a nice result. But he might have Lalu to think about if Lalu can get past Voznitzer.
Dennehan finished 11th at the Italian Grand Prix. That's his best result of 2022, at least, so far here this season for Jake Dennehan. He obviously has been inside the top 10 and he did on the podium in other parts of Formula Sim Racing, but not in the World Championship, as Lalu makes his dive now. Much more decisive and much later on the brakes, and that was a very nice move. Behind now, just in front now of Jan Voznitzer, and so he's up into 11th place. Dennehan, though, as you say, on a lot older tyres here, I think, and he's going to struggle to hold both of these back, as Mitchie Hoyer is using that little bit of push to pass. He's agonisingly close to that DRS, not quite there just yet, 8 tenths away.
Yeah, 7 tenths is the gap for DRS in Formula Sim Racing, reduced from that 1 second just to make it that little bit harder and that little bit less powerful for the DRS. But now he is getting within that 7 tenths, but he needs to hold it by the time they get to the Sector 2 marker. So if you look on the bottom right of your screen, you see just before the what we call the final corner, there's a little green line. That is the detection point that he really needs to worry about to get the run down towards turn number 1. But the important point then will be if he can hold on to the position should he get it.
Yeah, absolutely, and he did grab DRS down this little mini straight. You can see, well, it is a straight, isn't it? But it's a short DRS straight anyway. Now, this is the important margin. He just needs to have a good couple of corners here, and I think he's got it there. I think he'll have the DRS going down towards turn 1, And so with 9 laps to go, this is definitely on between Dennis Jordan and Mitchy Hoyer now, with the others in behind, not too far away. 8 seconds cover the top 5 right now. It's a remarkable USA Grand Prix, and it's all going to come down to the very final laps again, as it did in Italy a few weeks ago as well, in a very similar situation. We're seeing it all over again. Dennis Jordan's on the defensive on this occasion. He's trying to hold back Mitchy Hoyer, who will be hoping that he can finish ahead of the Red Bulls this time instead of behind.
And Callas and Williams, even Siebel behind them, were all quicker on the previous lap, of course, being on the softer tyres and potentially fresher in a couple of the cases as well. So they need to be making sure that if they do have a battle, they don't then bring the cars behind into play. They need to be very tactical here with working it out. But of course, you just know both of these drivers want the win, and they're all going to be going for it, which is great to see when we're coming into well inside the final 10 laps of this race now.
It's absolutely fantastic news for us. Because, they're all going to absolutely go for this, you would imagine. Matthew Williams might well be going for third very soon as well. It's hard to know where to look inside the top 10 right now. They make their way out of turn 12 and onto the banking again. Let's see if Hoyer will be able to make his mark. He'll have the DRS, there's no question about that, but will he have the move and the opportunity to go for it even? Down at turn 1, will Jordan even defend? Not really. And in behind, Matthew Williams is on the outside line with Sander Callas using a bit of push to pass to try and defend from him on the inside. Although Matthew Williams looks like he's done it. It's another good run around the outside of turn 2 for Callas, who's all out of shape. And who'll get the inside into 3 and 4, and he'll hold on once again. Williams not able to do it, but he's right up the back of the ground effect car now, going into the first sector. Oh, it's so close, but he's not able to do it just yet.
And team boss Matthew Clipp will be loving this, seeing his team on debut in the World Championship on the verge of a podium, with the other Matthew being Williams, the driver here today, trying to get himself that number 22 car up the inside of Sander Callas. Not quite enough, but is he going to be close enough through this sequence of corners? I think Callas may be starting to struggle just the tiniest bit with his tyres. Williams does have the extra few tenths in the bag, and let's see how this one comes out of the final corner.
Here we go again with the leaders as well. Hoyer up through the banking and much, much closer this time. He's going to go to the inside, and Dennis Jordan is not going to defend on the inside here. He would rather stay behind and maybe try and repass a little bit later on. Let's see, but Mitchy Hoyer takes the lead of the USA Grand Prix with 7 laps to go. Callas won't be able to get back past Williams on this occasion, who might well just start to go up the road now, with Alex Siebel just trying to close in at the moment as well, trying to gain those extra 2 points that position would get him.
Yeah, Siebel, I think, is going to have a chance at Callas before the end of the race. 6 laps left, and it's really getting to that crunch time to start making your moves. I'm surprised Jordan didn't even think about defending, didn't use push to pass, but he knows, as you say, he can come back to him, and maybe overall he wants to make sure that Williams isn't going to be catching the pair of them by the time we get to the end of the race. Or maybe Jordan is just going to do the old Marc Marquez trick and sit behind him and wait to the final lap. Let's find out.
Well, I don't watch MotoGP, so I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure that made sense to someone at home. But there we are. Sander Callas is just going to get towed along, really, over the next few laps. And Dennis Jordan will do the same. I just wonder if he's waiting for those final few laps. He mentioned it earlier on. He thought that, Cam, that Dennis Jordan might actually have better tyres in the final 5 or so laps of this race because of the way he can save tyres. Just wonder whether he's waiting for that to take a little bit of effect, or whether he thinks that actually being second going on to the final lap might actually be a better idea than leading. Yeah,
maybe we'll see. Was it about 2002 where Barrichello slipstreamed Schumacher to the line as they tried to get a bit of a photo finish, and in the end he actually won the race by a couple of thousandths? Maybe it was 2001, but back in the day there was something like that as well. Certainly things can happen here towards the checkered flag, and definitely do not count Dennis Jordan out for this one, but he knows he's on the longest stint here. He's going to struggle to get those tyres to the end in a nice way compared to Hoyer, who has a few laps advantage. So don't be surprised if he goes back for this, but it's not going to be easy as Hoyer's just stretching his lead as we come on to 5 laps to go.
Well, did he get the DRS there, Jordan? Because it's hovering around that 7/10 of a second mark now. He will open the rear wing and he will get that DRS, but he's certainly being pushed to the limit now by Hoyer, and that's got to be a bit of a worry to Dennis Jordan here, you'd say, because he will not want to lose the DRS here. If he wants to win this race, he can't lose the DRS at any point, in my opinion, because when that goes, he won't be able to get it back.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to have quite enough tyre grip. I think he's, at this moment in time, I think he is, because even last lap with DRS, he was a 1/10.5 slower. And without DRS, that's going to be another, couple of tenths, 3 tenths slower a lap. So I do think Dennis Jordan's struggling a little bit for the pace. But as you say, if you can stay in that DRS, it keeps every single opportunity. And maybe we will see something towards the end of the race, of course.
Well, 8 tenths. Oh, he might have got the DRS there. He might have just had a very good corner in where he needed to get it. But it's going to be very, very close. And I think he has to get back in front of Hoyer pretty quickly here, because he's certainly not got the pace of the Burst Esports driver just up in front here. Over the line, and it's going to be DRS again for Jordan. He's going to get to about half a second away, but it's not close enough to make a move, and he needs to get a bit closer in the coming laps if he really wants to win this race here. He is showing himself to be maybe a bit stronger in the final moments of this race than maybe he was looking a few moments ago. But yeah, this is close between these two now. It's hard to tell.
It really is hard to tell. I think Jordan just backed off a little bit and he's now starting to come on. Or is it Mitchie just slowing down? That was definitely a huge chunk of change that Jordan managed to keep up with compared to the previous lap. Push to pass as well, being used by Jordan on that back straight, trying to make sure he can keep the DRS. It just depends. Is he hanging on to that DRS gap, or is he actually thinking of trying to make a move? Knowing Dennis, I think he is going to be going for this victory. Lap 72 about to be completed, so 3 laps to go in this race, and it is as close as it has ever been, with once again push to pass being used by the pair of them around the final kink.
Only 3 to go for Jordan and Hoyer. Can Hoyer maybe get his first win of the season? Can Jordan get his second? Both of these two haven't won very much, bizarrely, in the Formula SimRacing World Championship. That is the Rd.9 Simicic effect, of course, but now that he's gone, you would have thought they'd maybe be able to win a few more races. But this is their chance now at the USA Grand Prix. The best chance that either of them have had, really, especially since Malaysia. For Jordan, through the midpoint of the season, he really didn't have the best of luck. But now, luck is back in his favour, you could say, and good driving certainly back in his favour as well. He's driven very well today, but has he driven well enough? For all we keep talking about the DRS here, Cam, and he keeps grabbing it in the right moments.
Ooh.
Although he might not have done there, he keeps grabbing it, but either way, he's nowhere near close enough to actually make moves. That's the problem.
Oh, loads of push to pass. Look at that. That was a good 3-4 seconds, 5 seconds even more from Dennis Jordan. Really trying to hold on in this slipstream here. So much. I mean, that's got to be at least 10-15 seconds. Dennis Jordan's really starting to hold off. But he knows, the reason why he did all that push to pass is because he knows, penultimate lap of the race, he needs to be in the DRS the next time around, because that's going to be the last run towards turn number 1. And this is going to be a great opportunity for them. And also, just a quick side note, is that Red Bull, as it stands, will be winning the Constructors' Championship this race if it finishes how it does, because they had quite a big margin over Unicorns of Love. But I don't think Dennis Jordan is thinking about that, because he's all over Mitchie Hoyer coming towards the final DRS zone into turn 1.
He's so much closer, and he absolutely needs to be. How much push to pass is remaining for these two at this stage? It's all going to be used up for the remainder of this one, because you absolutely just have to do it here at the moment. Through the final sector for the penultimate time. Is Jordan close enough? It's not a great exit off of turn 12. He got a little bit of a slide there, and he'll use all the push to pass that he has in order to maybe try and get through here. It's less than half a second. He's closing and closing some more. Mitchie Hoyer is going to use some in response, but he hasn't got DRS like Jordan has, and so there's going to be a battle for the race lead on the final lap. Outside line into turn 1 for Dennis Jordan. He's not going to be able to do it, is he? He's been pushed out and into turn 2. Hoyer is able to hold on to the lead just for the moment, as in behind, Alex Siebel, his teammate, is able to gain another couple of points by getting through on Sander Callas. That gives him the championship lead here on the final lap in Indianapolis. Just a few corners to go now for all of these drivers. Just one sector to go for Mitchie Hoyer at the end of this lap. It's half a second. Dennis Jordan using everything he's got. He's using the DRS down this straight. He's using all the push to pass he has remaining. And he just has to pray that the lightning bolt will strike. That Mitchie Hoyer does not have enough push to pass to hold on to the line. It looks like he will do. Hoyer gets another good exit. He's got some push to pass as well. They're going to use all that they have towards the line here. Hoyer runs out before Jordan does. Is the line going to come just quick enough? Here we go up towards the line. Mitzi Hoyer's going to win for the first time in 2022. He takes victory at the USA Grand Prix. And Seymour's into the wall, trying to get another couple of points. Matthew Williams holds on to a debut podium in the World Championship as Alex Seymour takes the championship lead with a 4th place finish ahead of Sander Callas, who will round out the top 5. But it's Mitzi Hoyer's day in the United States. And what a close finish that was for multiple positions in that race.
Absolutely amazing finish. What a race those two put on. The 2 versus the 3 stop, and it came down to just a couple of tenths of a second at the end. Dennis Jordan saved up all his push to pass for those final 2 laps, but it was not enough. Mitchie Hoyer broke late enough into turn 1 on the final lap, and that was an amazing battle between the Burst eSport and Oracle Red Bull Racing driver. But also Alex Siebel, the other Red Bull driver, look at this, coming around the final corner, and that is going to be potentially 2 points he might rue when we come towards Brazil.
Well, this is 3 points. This is for 3 points here on the outside of Matthew Williams, who just fades up the road. Oh, dearie me. Well, that is going to be talked about. And without that, Siebel would have got through, you would say. Now, Matthew Williams, did he block Siebel unfairly there? Did he block him at all? What's the verdict going to be? That may well be talked about after the race, and there may well be an update to that one in a few days' time, because that's a controversial one there, Cam. I don't know which way to call it, really.
Yeah, difficult to say so, because I think Williams was also moving before there was an overlap, and also just sort of the nature of that corner, so I definitely need to see that again. But amazing effort from Siebel there to try and get it on the final corner, and Williams is going to put everything on the limit to try and get his podium as well. So just an amazing battle between the two, and it just comes down to those every last millimeters on the track.
It's Mitchie Hoyer who won by a few of those millimetres by the end of that race. Dennis Jordan was second. Matthew Williams holds on for a debut podium. Alex Siebel takes the championship lead with that 4th place finish, ahead of Sander Callas, who made the 2-stop work. So did Zolt Sooks, but he lost out to Jan Drankvis towards the end there. Damien Scrovron finished 8th ahead of Colin Spork, who was quite lonely towards the end, but he does enough to stay within 5 points of Siebel and within a race win of the title. Jan Bosnitzer rounded out the top 10. Jake Denaham was just outside of it once again, I'm afraid. Yuka-Pekka Lalu finished in 12th ahead of Tom Oldermenger. Adam Rainey and Roman Panzar round at the top 15. Panzar, the first car, 1 lap down. Along with Leonov and Harry Smith, Cass Rietveld ended the race 3 laps down, with both Arnage competition cars and George Chatsipantelis not making it to the end of that race. Well, and what a fantastic race it was indeed. We're going to have a quick chat with the drivers on the podium, of course, starting with race winner Mitchie Hoyer returning to the top spot again. Mitchie, you must be very pleased after the 2022 you've had. You must be very glad to get back on the World Championship top step. Just talk us through what those final few laps really were like inside the car.
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, this win kind of makes up for Monza, makes up for an overall not too good season. And it's actually, for myself, it's really important because you were hanging in so often there, and you were hanging in so close. And then on the final laps, most of the time, stuff gone from good to bad to worse. And yeah, I'm all over the moon right now, to be honest. The last couple of laps, I knew what was going to happen when I passed Dennis. Like I said it on my stream a couple of laps ago. It's like, by now we know that Red Bull comes around with 100 seconds of push to pass in the end somehow, and gonna try and make the move. So when we entered the pit road to lap 75, not the pit road, the final lap, I boosted everything away I got and just kept myself the last little bit for the last sprint to the line, and eventually it was enough, and I was just very happy.
Yeah, I'm certainly going to see why. I mean, just talk us through a little bit as well about the strategy. It was a big story throughout the race today, the 2-stop versus the 3-stop. what was the kind of plan going into today, and how did your kind of confidence, kind of rise and fall with that strategy as you saw what Jordan was doing, obviously, and seeing how your race was panning out?
It was difficult because I didn't actually rule out a 4-stop, but in the beginning of the race, I felt like taking it easy and just see what happens, and then I had to have to say that Matthew Williams battling with Alex and Sander obviously enabled me to go a little bit longer for the gap. But yeah, I mean, at least like 30 or 40 laps into the race, I saw Dennis still being thereabouts, and then being there at the front. I'm like, yeah, okay, he's the 2-stopper, so it's going to get interesting in the end. Eventually, I felt like the 4 or 5 lap tire advantage might just give me the edge on him. So it was all about timing that final pit stop, and until then, just try to stay in clean air and stay in the fastest in the fastest stream possible so far. And eventually it worked out, and I'm really happy with it.
Absolutely, it was a great race indeed from you, and good to see you back on the top step, Mitchie. Congratulations on the victory, and thanks very much for coming to have a chat with us afterwards as well.
Thank you so much.
There you go, Mitchie Hoyer, victorious here at Indianapolis. And just behind him, of course, is Dennis Jordan, who also joins us. Dennis, good to have you here as well. I mean, it was so close towards the end there, but how was the belief in those final 5 laps or so? You slipped behind Mitchie with a few laps to go, and then you gave it one last go on the final lap. But how was your thought process going through that, and how did you rate your chances going on to that final lap?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I knew that I had a chance. I always knew how much push to pass he had. He obviously makes it easy for us to see. So there definitely was a point a couple of laps before the end where I was like more than double of him. So I knew I had a shot, even though the tires were worse. But yeah, I think overall he just played it perfect and had good pace. So there was nothing really I could do. I think P2 was the maximum.
And you guys at Red Bull, I don't know if you're aware or not, but you have sealed the team's championship, at least with this result here tonight. Obviously, your teammate Seaboy is still going to be involved with the drivers into a couple of weeks' time as well at the final round. But how do you rate? I know there's still one race to go, but how do you rate the season overall for your team in particular, as an overall so far with one round to go?
Yeah, I mean, rounding up the championship one round before the end, I mean, you can't really say that it was too bad. I think coming in, we obviously always took the season more or less to test stuff for Formula Pro. But still, like every time you go on the server Sunday evening here, so you just want to win. So there were a lot of fun races, a lot of good races, couple of bad ones as well. But let's just make sure that the next one is also good, and Alex can seal the Drivers' Championship there as well.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time for the finale, Dennis. But congratulations on second place here tonight. And thanks very much for coming to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much there. Mitchie and Dennis joining us there from first to second. Matthew Williams, unfortunately, won't be joining us for an interview here tonight, but he will be finishing third, or at least provisionally on the results for now here at the USA Grand Prix. So that's just about going to be it for tonight. We're going to bring Cam back in for one more moment before we get to our finale here as well. Before we round off for tonight, this championship, Cam, is very well poised and very much looking forward to the race coming up in 2 weeks' time for this championship finale. Because of that, 2 points just separating the top two.
Yes, it comes down to just the finest of margins. And as you say, it's basically winner takes all, because the difference between first and second is more than that. So if we get a nice 1-2 battle between Colin and Alex, that'll be very exciting indeed. And of course, the season's been up and down, left and right. Colin dominated for parts of it, then Alex dominated the last few races as well. And it's really just going to be the tightest of margins once again when we get to the next race.
It is going to be fantastic indeed. So make sure you join us for the championship finale in just 2 weeks' time. It's going to be a fascinating race indeed. One last look at the schedule and the calendar before we go. Sao Paulo is going to be the venue for that one. Sunday, the 21st of August. Same time, same place. Make sure you join us for it. Make sure you don't miss it because it's going to be great indeed. The first FSR World Championship finale that actually matters for 8 years. 2014 was the last time we saw two drivers still able to win a title going into the final race. 2022 is another year where we're going to see that again. So make sure you join us in 2 weeks' time. But for now, we will bid you farewell. I've been Ewan alongside Cam Rodger. Felix Van Delft has been behind the cameras here tonight. And until we see you again very shortly, it's goodbye for now.